We are live. It is the A Train, and I have aptly called it the ride. And guess what? We are firing up the engines. That's right. We are revving up the engines, getting the train back on the track because we are going to talk some high school football. Season kicks off this Friday, and there is no telling where the train will pull into. That's right. On any given Friday, who knows? I may end up in Cheney. I may end up at Collegiate. I may even end up at what I think would be the big game, the game that could decide the G Wall. It would be the second game of the season. Not trying to overlook any of the other teams, but Wichita East versus Wichita Northwest. Because over the last couple of years, that game has become huge. Of course, I know you cannot overlook a team that's coached by Weston Sharks. We're talking about Cape and Mount Carmel. I'm pretty sure they'll have a say in it as well, too. But we're going to take a look pretty much around the state of Kansas over the next, well, today and most likely tomorrow, because I want to take a look at players to watch, some of the classifications, what to look for. And today we're going to start off looking at some of the rankings. And I want to say that this content that I'm giving you is from we call it the Keisha website. Shout out to Brent Maycock. I do follow, Brent Maycock. I do follow him on call it, and some have even gotten clever and called it Twix. Guess you could call it that and get away with it. But yeah, we're going to talk a lot of high school football, predominantly high school football. I have no other news to give you. Y'all know on this particular platform, I like to spotlight the high school athletes. Let me rephrase that, the high school student athletes, because they are students first, then athletes. So I want to highlight them. I want to highlight these schools. And the first thing we're going to look at, and if you see Brent Maycock, I'm going to tell him thank you, but tell him thanks for the hard work that he does, because he deserves it. I mean, he's always has his nose to the grind, and I have had brief interaction with him on, like I say, X, and it has been friendly banter. And I know he's a hard worker getting this information out. So I am using the Keisha website, and a lot of this content is made possible by Brent Maycock. So make sure, if you ever see the guy, those of you who hear this may be watching the video stream right now, and later you will hear the podcast. Tell the man thank you for the hard work that he does in getting all this information out. So we're going to start by looking at some of the preseason rankings, and then we'll go into some more in-depth looks. I'm gonna get to you as much as I can with the time that I do have. I am a working man, and I'm in between jobs right now. Got off of one job, had to go to the pharmacy, and we're not going to talk about that. And I have another job I have to be at 5:00. So at the same time, I hope it doesn't feel like I am rushing through this, because I want to take my time and do it right. So let's start by looking at the 6A preseason rankings. Coming in at number 1, Gardner Edgerton with a 12-1 record last year. Number 2 is Derby, coming in with an 11-1 record last year. Number 3, Manhattan with a 12-1 record last year. Wichita Northwest coming in at number 4, 9-2. Blue Valley Northwest, 7-4. And others receiving vote, Blue Valley West 10-2, Dodge City 6-4, Free State 6-4, Junction City 5-5, Mays 5-5, Olathe East 6-4, Olathe Northwest 6-4, Shawnee Mission East 5-5, Shawnee Mission Northwest 8-3, Wichita East 7-4. And how about the Titans? That's right, the mighty Titans. Wichita South coming off of their first winning season since 2015, 6-4. Looking at the 5A preseason rankings, number 1, St. Thomas Aquinas, who had a perfect season last year. Mill Valley 9-2, Great Bend 9-1, Hayes 8-5, St. James Academy 6-6. Let me back up to Hayes because they have a return visit. There will be in Derby, I do believe, for their first game of the season. So I know they're chomping at the bits to get their revenge from last year. Others receiving votes: Basel Linwood 8-2, DeSoto 7-2, Blue Valley 6-3, Blue Valley North 3-8, Eisenhower 9-3, Hutchinson 8-3, Leavenworth 6-4, Liberal 7-3, Pittsburgh 7-3, Seaman 8-3. Looking at 4A, Bishop Miege 5-8. Andover Central, the defending 5A champions, finally the dam broke and they broke through and secured their first state title, 12-1. Cape and Mount Carmel at number 3, 7-3. Bueller, number 4, 9-3. Coming in number 5, Wamego, 9-2. Others receiving votes: Atchison 8-2, Chanute 8-3, Fort Scott 6-4, Labette 5-5, Lansing 6-5, Lewisburg 7-2, McPherson 5-5, Mulvane 7-3, Ottawa 6-4, Tonganoxie 8-4, Wellington 8-3, Winfield 6-4. Now we take a look at 3A preseason rankings. And in case you're wondering about these records that I'm giving you, these were their records in 2024. Appropriately ranked number 1. They got back on their throne last year. Preseason number 1 with a 13-0 record last year. How about those Indians? Andale. Number 2, Hayden 11-2. Number 3, Cheney 9-2. Will we see another epic battle between Cheney and Andale? Of course, there's some others that may have a say in that. Wellsville coming in number 4, 11-1. How about another team that gave Cheney some fits last year? They split the season last year. Number 5, Wichita Collegiate 9-2. Then you have the others receiving votes: Clay Center 5-5, Columbus 7-3, Frontenac 9-1, Girard 6-4, Heston 8-2, Holcomb 9-3, Houghton 5-5, Heuvelton 5-5, Marysville 6-3. Why did I put some emphasis on Marysville? I had a job where I used to deliver pharmaceuticals to long-term care facilities, and one of the towns I would stop in was Marysville. They got a nice high school from what I've seen. Talked to some of the natives around there, and they were kind of disgruntled at the time. Good to see that Marysville program get things turned around and get mentioned as others receiving votes in the preseason. Perry-Lecompton 5-6, Pratt 6-3, Prairie View 8-3, Rock Creek 8-2, Scott City, a school with nothing but rich tradition, 9-2. Looking at the 2A rankings, Southeast of Saline coming in at number 1 with a 13-0 record from last year. Nemaha Central coming in at number 2, 11-2. Number 3, Osage City, 10-1. Number 4, Beloit, 9-3. Number 5, Hoisington, 6-5. Others receiving votes: Caney Valley, 6-3. Ellsworth, 5-4. Eureka, 6-3. Garden Plain, 8-3. Haven, 8-2. Humboldt, 10-1. Norton, 8-2. Phillipsburg, 6-4. Royal Valley, 5-4. Sabetha, 6-5. Silver Lake, 7-3. St. Mary's, 6-4. 2A looks like it's going to be a stacked field. Nothing is given. You're going to have to go out and earn it. 1A, number 1, Conway Springs, 13-0. Centralia 11-2. Jackson Heights 10-1. Number 4, St. Mary's Colgan 9-2. Number 5, Rossville 8-4. Others receiving votes: Hutchinson Trinity 7-3. Inman 4-5. Jefferson County North 5-4. Marion 7-3. McLouth 7-3. Mound Ridge 7-1. OP, no, not Andy's OP, 7-3. Plainville 8-3. Sedgwick 8-2. Sterling 6-4. Thomas More Prep Marion 5-4. Troy 6-4. Valley Heights 9-3. Now let's look at 8-player Division 1. Number 1, South Central 11-1. Wichita County 8-2. Central Plains 10-3. El Saline 8-2. Little River 8-3. Others receiving votes: Cedarville Dexter 5-4. Chase County 7-3. Clifton Clyde 9-3. Ellis 5-4. Hill City 7-4. Hoxie 13-0. Kinsley 6-3. Lincoln 6-3. Linden 5-4. Madison 7-4. Here's a school I can say I'm proud of because I know their coach. Had him on my show a few times. Oswego 7-3. Rollins County 7-3. South Gray 6-3. Sublette 7-3. Sylvan Lucas 6-3. West Elk 9-1. 8-player Division 2. There's no surprise here. Coming in preseason ranked number 1, Axtell, powerhouse. In season, out of season. All you do is churn out championship caliber teams year in and year out. Number 2, Victoria 12-1. Number 3, Hanover 8-2. Number 4, Frankfort, another town I used to go through, 9-3. Burlingame 10-1. Others receiving votes: Argonia Attica 7-3. Dighton 11-1. Hodgman County 8-3. Hutchinson Central Christian 9-2. Lebo 7-3. Logan Palco 8-2. Marmont Valley 8-2. Mineola 7-2. Osborne 7-4. Now we take our attention to 6-man rankings. Number 1, Weston 13-0. Number 2, Cunningham 11-1. Number 3, South Barbara 8-2. Number 4, Golden Plains 8-3. Number 5, Tescott 8-3. Others receiving votes: Chelan 4-5. Ingalls 8-2. Maurice Desingas Valley, hope I pronounced that right, 6-3. Northern Valley 4-6. Otis Bison 6-4. Peabody, that's how we say it around here, 7-2. Now what we're going to do, we are going to get into some football preview. And I can tell you, the contributing writer for this story, none other than Brent Maycock. Like I said, when you see that man, tell him the A-Train said, thank you. Couldn't do the show without him. Coming off 2 straight appearances in the Class 6A state championship game, the first inning in a heartbreaking 21-20 double overtime loss to Manhattan, the second culminating in the program's first ever state title, Gardner Edgerton had its staying power put to the test in 2023. Trailblazers graduated almost its entire starting defense from the 2023 championship team, as well as a number of key playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. But having passed a big test a year ago and proving that its surprising run to the 2022 title game wasn't a fluke, Gardner Edgerton handled last year's test with the mettle of a program in the infant stages of perhaps building a dynasty. The Trailblazers' only loss in the regular season came to 5A powerhouse Mill Valley by 6 points, and they carried that momentum through the postseason, fighting off Blue Valley West 34-25 to return to a third straight state championship game. Their opponent in the title game was going to be a rematch of some kind, either against 2022 foe Manhattan or 2023 opponent Derby, who each took undefeated 11-0 records into their semifinal showdown, both having navigated their schedules to that point to relative ease with Manhattan's 34-30 win over eventual 5A runner-up Hayes, the only game for either program decided by less than 10 points. Manhattan pulled out a 31-21 win over the Panthers for its fourth straight win over Derby in their last 5 meetings. The lone loss in that stretch coming in the 2023 playoff quarterfinals. If the first championship game meeting between Gardner and Manhattan was a thriller, the rematch just might have found a way to top it. Manhattan got out to a 19-7 lead early in the second quarter before 2 straight touchdown passes by Gardner Edgerton's Braven Powell gave the Trailblazers a 22-19 halftime lead. After trading third quarter touchdowns, Manhattan struck early in the fourth quarter on a Jaden Huntley 33-yard TD run for a 33-29 lead. But with the season on the line and playing with a broken hand suffered late in the fourth quarter, Powell had the closing statement. His 1-yard touchdown plunge with 10 seconds left gave Gardner a 36-33 win, and its repeat secured after the Trailblazers batted down a Hail Mary pass on the game's final play. Powell ran for 129 yards and 3 touchdowns and threw for 2 scores in the title game as Gardner finished 12-1. Manhattan also ended with a 12-1 record. So let's take a look at the contenders on an unprecedented run for the program as back-to-back 6A state champion. Gardner Edgerton's staying power will be put to the ultimate test this season after the Trailblazers graduated 17 starters off last year's team. The program has taken graduation hits during its recent run of 3 straight title games, but at least on the offensive side of the ball, went into the next season knowing Braven Powell would be running things. The 3-year starter earned All-State Top 11 honors last year after fueling the second straight championship season. In his absence, the Trailblazers' funded flexbone offense will lean heavily on running backs Sire Padilla and Porter Swaim, who are the only returning starters on offense. Padilla was an all-6A first-teamer who ran for 1,705 yards and 6 touchdowns. Hey, do you state schools see that? Y'all better keep your eye on him. While Swaim fell just under 1,000 yards with 936, 12 TDs. No lineman returned, so a rebuild there is critical to the offense's success. Defensively, only 3 starters are back, led by linebacker Charlie Drinkard, 98 tackles, and safety Penn McCall, 81 tackles. Jesse Owen has things rolling with this program, which has gone 24-2 over the past 2 seasons. And now it's time for the next wave to keep it going. While not returning to the 6A title game qualifies as a disappointment for a program like Derby, it was hardly a down season for the Panthers, who were undefeated going into the state semifinals before falling to fellow unbeaten Manhattan. The Panther dynasty is still going strong, though they haven't claimed a state title since 2020. That crown, 3rd straight and 5th in 6 years for the program. Derby has reached the state semifinals 14 times in the past 19 seasons and played for the title 9 times in that stretch, winning 6. With 7 starters returning on offense, Derby has the firepower to once again play on the final weekend, even with the loss of All-State Top 11 tight end Deshaun Brain. Junior tailback Arius Finley ran for 1,512 yards and 26 touchdowns last year and was a first-team All-6A selection as a sophomore. So he can just really rewrite the record books at Derby. He's got 4 returning starters on the offensive line back to clear the way, led by All-6A pick Max Robinson. The Panthers' biggest question marks are on the defensive side of the ball, where only 3 starters are back, led by Dalton Hornback and nose tackle Houston Boland. Manhattan has a defensive stop and tipped Hail Mary pass away from capturing its second state title in 3 years, falling 36-33 to Gardner Edgerton in the title game, with the deciding score coming with 10 seconds left. In order to reach a third title game in 4 years, the Indians will have a bit of rebuild on offense, as the Indians were hit hard by graduation, which claimed the likes of all 6'8" quarterback Carter Aslan, a 3-year starter, all 6'8" lineman Trey Hoover, and 1,000-yard rushing Jaden Huntley. Only 2 starting linemen returned on that side of the ball, including Garrison Vikander, who was one of a handful of Indians who started both ways last year. The best of that group is arguably one of the top players in the state overall, J.J. Dunnigan, who earned all-state top 11 honors last year. The Kansas commit starred at receiver, 556 yards, 5 touchdowns, defensive back, 65 tackles, and in the return game, 3 TDs, and will be an even bigger playmaker this year as the new weapons develop. 7 players who started at some point defensively, with lineman Evan Middleton leading a new-look defensive front. Manhattan has gone 141-32 under head coach Joe Schartz, who is in his 17th season. If not for running into Manhattan, Wichita Northwest very well could have found itself playing for the state title last year. The Indians have been a nemesis for the Grizzlies in recent year and handed Northwest both of its losses last year, including 49-28 in the state quarterfinals last year. The Grizzlies have been a model of consistency under head coach Steve Martin, going 110-33 in his 12 seasons. Nothing should change this year, with 9 starters returning each way, including 5 with Division I offers. Kansas commit Jalen Mason returns at quarterback after having thrown for more than 2,000 yards and rushed for another 600. Let me say, that right there in itself is amazing, because anybody that knows Steve Martin coached teams, they run the ball. And then they run the ball. And guess what? They run the ball. So when I see a 2,000-yard passer for a Steve Martin coach team, that speaks volumes. That means you just can't focus on one aspect of their game. Not only did they have him throw for 2,000 yards and rushing for 600, he's complimented in the backfield by senior back, aptly named Augie Fast, who ran for 1,734 yards. So he was just shy of 2,000 yards rushing to go along with a 2,000-yard passer. Let that sink in. And 14 TDs last year. Northwest's offensive line is stacked with 4 starters back, 3 of whom hold Division I offers, led by D'Angelo Williams and Maddox McGinnis. Linebackers Jamari Bland and John Michael Fountain, 4-year starter, lead a defense that could hold the key to a title run. Having posted 5 straight winning seasons for the first time since 1990s, Blue Valley Northwest shook off a late season 3-game losing skid to reach the state quarterfinals last year, finishing 7-4 after a 44-29 loss to Gardner. The Huskies have some major holes to fill up front, with the graduation of Michigan signee Andrew Babalola and all 6A two-way lineman Brock Heath, as well as every other offensive line starter. Top receiver Trevor Garlington and quarterback Joseph Arnold also are gone. But the Huskies have a wealth of skilled players led by tailback L.J. Bowens, 1,117 yards, 11 TDs, and receiver Aiden McGibney, 454 yards, 7 TDs, who will help Northwest break in its first non-senior starting quarterback in 5 years. Linebacker tight end Caleb Peterson leads 5 returning starters on defense, and Northwest has one of the top kickers in the state in Trace Rudd, who has an offer from Oklahoma. After dropping a tough 25-21 loss to eventual 5A state champion St. Thomas Aquinas in the season opener, Blue Valley West rolled off 10 straight wins to reach a 6A semifinal for the first time since 2021. The road ended with a 35-24 loss to eventual champ Gardner Edgerton. The Jaguars were hit hard by graduation with just 2 starters returning on offense and 3 on defense, with all 6A Tate Nagy, Quinn Myers, and Jack Cook among the losses. Senior linebacker Lawson McGraw returns as a starter both ways, linebacker, tight end, and is getting Division I offers after making 42 tackles a year ago. He'll team with Cade Whitesong to give the Jaguars a strong 1-2 duo at linebacker, but West will be young across the board as they try to rebuild and continue its recent run of success under 10th-year coach Josh Kornheimer. I hope I got that right. Dodge City went 6-4 last year, knocking off Wichita East in the final game of the regular season, 21-14, but then falling to the Blue Aces, 21-17 in the second round of the playoffs. The Red Demons returned 6 starters each way, though returning linebacker Ty Shack will likely flip to the offense and take over at quarterback this season. He'll have 3 returning starting linemen to operate behind, led by second-team All-Western Athletic Conference guard Aldo Reyes, who will shift to tackle this season. Easton Smith, Cordell Howard, and Johnny Bone are 2-way starters who are back as well. Free State was awfully close from seeing its 6-4 record turn out much better, enduring tight losses to 6A runner Manhattan 38-28, 5A power Mill Valley 31-23, and Shawnee Mission Northwest 27-24. Firebirds will have to replace a strong senior class that produced 9 players that are in college programs this fall, including all 6A kicker Youssef, and I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name, and linebacker Parker Moore. Free State boasts one of the top linemen in the state in senior Brayton Williams, a Clemson commit. He'll be joined on the offensive line by younger brother Reese, who is a rising prospect as well. Finn Moore was one of the top defensive players a year ago and will be a bigger part of the offense this year, taking over as full-time quarterback. Junction City was just 5-5 last year, suffering a 4-game losing streak before winning 4 straight in the late season. The Blue Jays returned 7 starters on offense and 6 on defense. Senior quarterback Conrado Gomez threw for 1,471 yards and 15 touchdowns last year, while Jamarcus Tyson is the leading defensive returner, earning first-team All-Conference League honors at linebacker after making 66 tackles. Mays started last season 0-4 before turning things around and finishing with a 5-5 mark. And I do believe part of their turnaround was when they knocked off Mays South, who was riding kind of high at the time. The Eagles hope that late season momentum carries over to this year, and with 7 full-time and 2 part-time starters back on defense, there's a good chance it could. 4 of those were sophomore starters last year. Only 4 starters are back on the offense, but senior quarterback Braden Maivella had a solid season, though he'll miss speedster receiver Bryson Hayes. Olathe East was somewhat flipped from Mays' season, with the Hawks starting out 4-0 before finishing 6-4. 2 of those losses came to Shawnee Mission Northwest, including a 21-17 defeat in the second round of the playoffs. The Hawks returned 5 starters on offense and 4 on defense, 2 each way up front. Defense could be a strength despite the lack of returning starters. After going 8-4 in 2022, Olathe Northwest slipped to 2-7 in 2023, but then turned things back around last year with a 6-4 mark. The Ravens look to stay on the winning side of the ledger again this year and not fall back under 500. And with 7 starters back on offense, the opportunity there is there to do so. There's comfort at quarterback. Junior Brody Comfort, who handled the job well as a sophomore starter last year. 3 linemen also returned up front, and 5 starters returned on defense. Shawnee Mission East reached 500 last year for the first time since 2018 and nearly climbed over the break-even mark, losing in 4 overtimes to Olathe East and in overtime to Olathe South in the final 2 weeks of the regular season. The Lancers returned 5 starters on offense from their 5-5 team with Jack Reeves, one of the top quarterbacks in the Sunflower League, after he ran for 1,066 yards and 14 TDs and threw for 690 yards and 8 TDs last year. Leading tackler Davis Eccles returns, but he's one of only 3 starters back on defense. A new regime is in place at Shawnee Mission Northwest as Kirk Webster takes over for longtime coach Bo Black, who retired after leading the Chargers to an 8-3 mark last year that included a 1-point loss to eventual state champion Gardner Edgerton. Webster inherits a team that returns 5 starters each way, though the program will miss all 6A in Hunter Engel and all 6A offensive lineman Jacob O'Donnell. Leading rusher John Whitner is also gone, but the offense is in good hands with dual threat quarterback Trey Woodruff. Wichita East, the Blue Aces, will challenge Wichita Northwest for the top spot in the G-Wall and lost to the Grizzlies 14-0 last year. The Blue Aces finished 7-4 overall, and though top receiver Carlin Ransom is gone and quarterback Robert Hunter transferred back to Hutchinson, tailback Aaron Bohannon returns after rushing for more than 1,600 yards and 22 touchdowns. The defense will be stout, led by all 6A linebacker Farrell Adams and lineman DJ Ngasa. Wichita South, those Titans, posted its most wins in the season since 1994, going 6-4, which also marked the first winning season since 2015. The Titans also host the playoff game for the first time in program history, beating Wichita Heights. 6 starters are back on offense, including breakout performer Rayshawn Johnson, a hybrid quarterback who had 21 total touchdowns last year and also was a deadly runner. Jaden Kirk will complement him wherever he lines up after rushing for 1,390 yards last year. Johnson also shines on defense in the secondary and is one of 5 starters back on that side of the ball. South could take another big step this year if it can handle the burden of expectations. And there you have a look at 6A and the rankings. And unfortunately, my time is drawing near, but I hope you have enjoyed thus far what I have brought to you to get you ready for the upcoming football season. You pretty much know what to expect now, at least in 6A, and as far as the rankings are concerned. Tomorrow when I come back, we're going to pick up where I left off at. We're going to look at 5A and 4A, and we're going to just try to get on down through as much of it as we can. I also want to look at some players to watch. And like I say, if you see Brett Maycock, tell him the A-Train said thank you. I'm going to get on X tonight and tell him thanks myself, because he is worthy of all the honor due to him. So until the next time, I want you to take care of yourself and each other. We will try to be back again on tomorrow and give you some more. So Hope you enjoyed the ride today as much as I enjoyed having you on the ride. So until next time, I'm out of here.